Right now, at this very moment, a beam of light is landing on a mirror the size of a tennis court, floating a million miles from where you're sitting. That light left its source before Earth existed, before our sun existed, before almost anything existed. It's been traveling for over 13 billion years, crossing a universe that was expanding the entire time, just to hit a golden hexagon mirror and get captured by a machine built by humans who weren't even born yet when the project started. And when scientists finally decoded what that light was showing them, it broke something. Not a piece of equipment, not a budget, it broke a timeline that had held up for almost a century. Picture a city. Now picture that city fully built, skyscrapers, subway systems, millions of residents, appearing in a construction lot that was empty a week ago. That's roughly the scale of shouldn't be possible we're talking about here. This is the story of J's GSV 140. Stop and sit with that name for a second, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand why a galaxy most people have never heard of is quietly forcing physicists to ask whether we've had the origin story of everything wrong. Before we go further, if you're new here, this is the channel where we take the strangest, most mind-bending discoveries in space and break them down without the jargon, without the fluff, just the real story and why it actually matters to you. If that sounds like your thing, hit subscribe now because it's about to get weird. Let's rewind to the beginning, not of the universe but of the tool that found this thing. For decades, our best window into the deep universe was the Hubble Space Telescope. Hubble was a marvel. It gave us the deepest images of space humanity had ever seen. But Hubble had a limit. It could see far. It could not see far enough back into the true dark ages of the cosmos, because the light from the very first galaxies had been stretched, redshifted, into infrared wavelengths that Hubble simply wasn't built to detect. So scientists designed a successor, the James Webb Space Telescope. 25 years in development, $10 billion, a mirror unfolded in space, using more than 300 single points of failure that all had to work perfectly, with zero chance for a repair mission if something went wrong. The plan was straightforward, at least on paper. Point Webb's infrared eyes at the earliest galaxies ever formed, watch them as faint, small, dim smudges, the newborns of the universe, and confirm the standard model of cosmology, the one where galaxies build up slowly, over hundreds of millions of years, gaining mass step by step like a snowball rolling downhill. That was the expectation. Small, faint, slow, exactly what a baby universe should look like. Reality had other plans. Here's the first twist, and it came almost immediately. Just months after Webb's cameras switched on in the summer of 2022, a team working on a survey called SARNS, a Cosmic Evolution Early Release Science Program, pointed the telescope into what looked like an empty patch of sky and started finding galaxy candidates from an era so early, so close to the Big Bang, that they shouldn't have had time to form much of anything yet. But it wasn't just that they existed, it was what they looked like. Some of these early galaxy candidates appeared to already carry the mass of billions of suns, not scattered gas, not a handful of baby stars. Actual, structured, mature-looking galaxies sitting in a slice of cosmic time when the universe was less than 3% of its current age. Think about it like this. Imagine finding a fully grown working adult in a maternity ward minutes after the hospital opened. That's the mismatch scientists were staring at. One of the researchers involved, astronomer Ivo Lebey, who led a major study on these objects published in the journal Nature, put it bluntly, the results, he said, would be very hard to explain using our current understanding of galaxy formation. Why does that matter to you? Because the timeline of the universe isn't just an abstract science class chart, it's the story of how we got here, how the raw hydrogen and helium from the Big Bang eventually became stars, then heavier elements, then planets, then you. If the early chapters of that story are wrong, every chapter after it is standing on a shaky foundation, but none of that prepared anyone for what came next. The second major beat happened when scientists pushed even further back, hunting for the single most distant, most ancient galaxy they could confirm. Not just estimate, but confirm, using a technique called spectroscopy, which splits light apart the way a prism splits sunlight into a rainbow, revealing the galaxy's exact chemical fingerprint and its precise distance. In 2024, a team working with the JADE survey, the JWST Advanced Deep Extragalactic Survey, found it. JADE's GSZ 140, a galaxy so far away that its light left it when the universe was only about 290 million years old. For comparison, the universe today is roughly 13.8 billion years old. That means we're looking at a snapshot from before the universe had even reached its first 2% of existence. That alone would be a record-breaking discovery. Exciting but expected, Webb was built to find exactly this kind of thing eventually. Here's the part that wasn't expected. This galaxy wasn't a faint, shapeless smudge like the models predicted. It was bright. Unusually, almost defiantly bright. Bright enough that astronomers initially assumed there had to be a mistake in the data. Brant Robertson, an astrophysicist at UC Santa Cruz and one of the leaders of the JADE survey, described the object this way: It was, in his words, a truly remarkable object that was bursting with star formation and yet had somehow already assembled a mass of over 10 billion suns just 300 million years after the beginning of galaxy formation in the universe. 10 billion suns, assembled in a fraction of the time anyone thought was possible. Stop and actually sit with that number for a second. 10 billion is a number your brain can't really picture, so try this instead. If you tried to count to 10 billion, one number per second, without ever sleeping, it would take you over 300 years. That's how much stellar material this galaxy packed together before the universe had even finished its first big growth spurt. Not slow, not gradual, not the gentle snowball we were promised. Actually explosive, almost violent star formation, happening far earlier and far faster than the standard model allowed. This matters to you because it changes the pace of the origin story of everything, stars, elements, eventually planets like ours. If galaxies could grow up that fast, then the ingredients for life-bearing worlds may have been cooking in the universe far earlier than we ever assumed. If this is the kind of discovery that makes your brain itch in the best way, drop a comment telling me what number in this video actually made you stop and reread it. I read every single one, and I want to know which fact broke your brain the way it broke mine. Now here's the third beat, and this is where things go from surprising to genuinely confusing for cosmologists. It's not just that a few outlier galaxies are showing up early, it's that there seem to be too many of them. When scientists build a model of how many bright, massive galaxies should exist at these extreme distances, based on decades of established physics, Webb is finding significantly more of them than the model predicts, in some analyses, several times more. That's not a rounding error. That's a population of objects the math didn't budget for. Researchers have started calling this the impossible early galaxy problem, and some, only half-jokingly, have nicknamed the most extreme candidates universe breakers, because if even a portion of them hold up under further scrutiny, something fundamental about how matter clumped together in the infant universe needs to be rewritten. Why should you care about a debate over galaxy population statistics? Because this is what real scientific revolutions look like from the inside, not a single lightning bolt moment, but a slow pile-up of anomalies that a field can no longer explain away. You are watching one of those pile-ups happen in real time. And the fourth beat ties it all together, because it's not just about how many galaxies or how big they are, it's about what's already living inside some of them. When astronomers looked closely at one of these ancient galaxies, GNZ11, they didn't just find stars. They found evidence of a supermassive black hole, already active, already feeding, at a point in cosmic history when black holes, according to the standard model, should have still been tiny, just getting started. Not a small black hole slowly growing over billions of years. Not a coincidence. Actually a monster, already awake at the dawn of time. That finding alone forces a question nobody has fully answered. How do you build something that massive, that fast, using only the raw material available in the universe's first few 100 million years? Right now, nobody knows for certain. And nobody knows for certain is one of the most honest and most exciting sentences in modern science. Let's talk about the people behind all of this, because it's easy to treat a telescope like a machine that just spits out miracles. It didn't work that way. Webb's launch on Christmas Day 2021 was one of the most nerve-wracking events in the history of space science. The telescope had to unfold itself in space autonomously across roughly 2 weeks, using a sequence of more than 300 individual mechanisms, pins, latches, tensioning cables, a sun shield the size of a tennis court that had to unfurl perfectly on the first try. If even one of those steps failed, there was no astronaut crew, no repair mission, no second chance. It was hundreds of thousands of miles too far away for any kind of rescue. Engineers who had spent decades of their careers on this single project watched that unfolding sequence with their hands literally shaking. Some had started working on Webb when they were young scientists. They were now approaching retirement, still waiting to see if it would work. It did work. Every single mechanism deployed correctly. And then came the waiting, months of calibrating mirrors, aligning optics down to fractions of a wavelength of light, testing instruments, before the telescope ever captured a usable scientific image. That's the part people forget. Before the awe, before the record-breaking galaxies, there was uncertainty, risk, and years of people trusting a process they couldn't fully guarantee would pay off. The discoveries we're talking about today only exist because a global team was willing to sit with that uncertainty for 2 decades. Now let's bring this into the present, because this isn't a closed case study, it's an active investigation happening as you watch this. In 2025 and into 2026, follow-up observations have been targeting these extreme early galaxies with even more precision, using longer exposure times and refined spectroscopy to nail down exactly how massive, how old, and how strange these objects really are. Teams are racing to confirm or rule out whether the most extreme universe breaker candidates hold up, because right now, some of them remain provisional, bright, real, but still being cross-checked against every possible alternative explanation, including the boring one, that a foreground object or a data artifact is inflating the numbers. That's real science. Not everything survives scrutiny. But so far, a significant number of these early massive galaxies have held up under exactly that scrutiny, and that's what's keeping cosmologists up at night in observatories around the world right now, in 2026, as this video is being made. And there's a specific date worth marking on your calendar, because it's not speculation, it's already planned. In the fall of 2026, JWST is scheduled to begin its next extended deep field observing campaigns as part of its ongoing General Observer programs, pushing exposure times even longer in targeted patches of sky specifically chosen to hunt for galaxies from before the 300 million year mark, potentially closing in on the very first generation of galaxies to ever exist, the ones astronomers call Population 3. When that data comes back, we may be looking, for the first time in human history, at direct evidence of the very first stars to ever ignite in the universe. Let that land for a second. Not an artist's rendering, not a simulation, an actual photograph of actual light from the actual first fires the universe ever lit. Now zoom out with me, because this isn't really a story about one telescope, or one galaxy, or one confusing statistic. It's about the fact that a species that didn't exist for the first 13.8 billion years of the universe's history has now built an instrument capable of looking back and watching its own cosmic ancestry unfold in real time. We are matter that used to be inside stars, looking back at the stars that made the matter that eventually became us, and finding out that the story is stranger, faster, and more chaotic than we ever gave it credit for. Every atom in your body was forged inside a star that lived and died long before Earth existed. And now, for the first time, we're catching glimpses of the very first generation of those star factories, switching on far earlier and far more violently than any model predicted. We are, in a very real sense, using our most advanced technology to try to remember our own origin, and what we're finding is that the memory doesn't match the official story. So here's where this leaves us, not with an answer, but with an open wound in our understanding. Nobody currently knows, with full confidence, how galaxies containing billions of solar masses of stars and active supermassive black holes managed to assemble within the first few 100 million years of cosmic history. The leading models are being stretched, patched, and in some cases quietly abandoned. Some scientists suspect star formation in the early universe was simply far more efficient than we assumed. Others wonder if dark matter behaves differently than expected in these extreme early conditions. A few are asking an even bigger question, whether some of our fundamental assumptions about the Big Bang timeline itself need revisiting. Nobody knows which of these, if any, is correct. And that's not a failure of science. That's science working exactly the way it's supposed to, running headfirst into something it can't explain yet, and refusing to look away. So the question I want to leave you with is this. If the universe was already building billion-star cities before it was even supposed to know how, what else did it do earlier, faster, and stranger than we assumed, and how much of what we call settled science is really just the best guess we haven't broken yet? If this kind of story genuinely messes with your sense of scale and time the way it did mine, do me a favor, hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because this impossible early galaxy story is still unfolding in real time, and I'll be covering every major update as it drops. Drop a comment with your best guess at what's actually going on out there. I read all of them. And if you know someone who needs their mind quietly wrecked today, share this with them. Next video, we're going even further back, into the strange handful of seconds right after the Big Bang itself, where the laws of physics as we know them may not have even applied yet. You will not want to miss that one.